Folks, hello, and welcome to Tavern Chat. I'm your host, Eric Tenkar, your bartender in the OSR, your main proprietor at the Tenkar's Tavern blog. And yes, I do see that there's the faint scent of OGL 1.1 still in the air. Actually, if you head over to Enroll, the conversations on 1.1, is it an OGL? Is it not an OGL? Are still going very strong. And you, what I hate are the people going, well, we really shouldn't be discussing this yet because we really don't know much about it. Well, the reason why you know what you know now is because there's a lot of discussion going on about the rumor that there wasn't going to be an OGL for one D&D. So it should be discussed. If they're proposing an OGL for it, it should be discussed. And I think part of what should be discussed is whether or not it actually is an OGL as presented. I would argue it is not. But your mileage may vary. So let's take a look at the Wikipedia entry. Because I'm trying to go, you know, uh, the outside sources I'm trying to limit here. Wikipedia is, quote, the place of record. Although you can go in and you can attempt to change stuff. It's been an interesting weekend if you've been following certain stuff, which has absolutely nothing to do with one D&D and absolutely an awful lot to do with gaming. To see how somebody, either themselves or somebody in their name, was trying to change history. But in any case, the OGL when it comes to one D&D, right? And now remember, calling it. Let's look at the entry here. In August of 2022, Wizards of the Coast launched a public playtest for the next version of D&D under the One D&D initiative. In November 2022, there was reported speculation that the OGL will be discontinued for this new iteration of Dungeons and Dragons based on unconfirmed leaks. Why are these leaks unconfirmed? Because people that were told this in confidence. Sharing it to members of the gaming press or the larger community, if they were to be named, would mean that there would never be a source for information ever again. So, I know that's the reason why I'm not naming my source, but I trust my source. And just because my source was saying that there was a very active, energetic discussion about whether or not to have an OGL, with one side supporting the idea of the OGL and one side, mostly the bean counters, against the idea of an OGL. What was proposed by Wizards of the Coast for OGL 1.1 is what appears to be a compromise between what an open game license is and what a game system license was, and find some way to meet in between. Because really, what they're doing is they are trying to find ways to make sure 1.1 leads to more revenue. So let's go back to the Wikipedia entry. GameRant comments that many players are not happy with the implication of this rumor. Tons of creators and companies have made their living on selling third-party Dungeons and Dragons homebrew. If Wizards of the Coast does not use the OGL in one D&D, many of these creators will be unable to make content for the Evergreen system. Will have to tiptoe around the law by using the 5th edition SRD to do so. They can always go copyright. Copyright is a lot more work. Folks, just so you all remember, the OGL does two things. It gives you as a creator a safe harbor. It gives Wizards of the Coast as a publisher unlimited support material for their system. That support material could still be written under copyright law, but you'd have to be very careful. It's been done. Probably the most famous current individual doing so, or company, Cinnamine Publishing, Jeremy Crawford, right? Amazing stuff. So he basically does old school OSR style settings, books, games, rule sets while not going OGL. So, comicbook.com highlighted that while not creating a new system reference document for 1D&D wouldn't snuff out third-party material, it would certainly discourage publishing or force publishers to turn to the DM's Guild, which uses a separate license. This is why my belief had been, and actually still is, that Wizards of the Coast sees the DM's Guild as a place where much of the future content, especially the content from companies making under 50,000 annually, will likely appear, and they share half of that with one bookshelf. Okay, so uh, Wizards did say, we will continue to support the thousands of creators making third-party D&D content with the release of 1D&D in 2024. While it is certain that our open game license, OGL, will continue to evolve just as it has since its inception, we are too early in the development of 1D&D to give more specifics on the open game license or system reference document at this time. But what they gave us is interesting. 1.1. Following are concerns raised by third-party Dungeons and Dragons creators on the potential changes to the OGL. Okay. What are these details? They're going to go into effect in 2023 with OGL 1.1. The new license will clarify it only applies to printed media or static electronic files like EPUBs and PDFs. Means if you're making content on your blog and you want to make content for 1D&D, you can't. I was doing that for Swords and Wizardry, and I was attaching the OGL. I had an OGL page. Can't do it. And it only covers material created for use in or as tabletop RPGs. It will not cover other content such as video games or VTTs. VTTs are a separate license, and if you're using one that currently has a license, they're insinuating that those licenses will stay in effect. But what won't you see? Well, if you can't use it with 1D&D, which is likely going to be the most popular RPG, tabletop RPG, when it releases, well, it kind of disincentivizes any other third-party VTTs to try to usurp what will likely be Wizards' VTT base. Interesting, if nothing else. Okay, so what else we have? All right. Now they talk about revenue. Before we get to revenue, you're going to have to register every product that you wish to publish under 1.1. They don't state if you have to register when you register if they will have approval process or not, and they may or may not. I would assume if you're going to be required to put an official OGL badge on your product, that there is potentially going to be, or will at some point, some review of your product to make sure it's appropriate. I don't know. Revenue related to OGL content must be reported to Wizards if it exceeds 50,000 annually. And if you make $750,000 in income annually, you'll be required to pay a royalty starting in 2024. So, Christian Hoffer for comicbooks.com wrote, Wizards noted this royalty should impact less than 20 creators, which includes major publishing companies like Kobold Press and Ghostfire Gaming. Chase Carter for Dicebreaker commented that this version of an updated OGL paves a path for Wizards of the Coast to muscle in on ultra-successful crowdfunding projects without crushing existing communities, which the blog post says are a critical part of the D&D experience. Okay. It's also going to severely hamper third-party publishers such as Frog God Games, Troll Lord Games, and others, where 5e is not all that they write for. They write for other systems. Are they going to stop writing for that? Maybe. Do you really want to have to show your earnings statements to one of your competitors in the field? I don't know. This is a question that they're going to have to ask themselves. And like they said before, up above, while it's certain our open game license will continue to evolve, that means that they can change. Oh, now 1.11. Well, now we've lowered the reporting requirements to 5,000, and we've lowered the royalties number to earnings of 50,000. That's all possible. They're going to tweak it when they start. This is my opinion, but once they know what the numbers are, they're going to tweak this to see what's that sweet point where we really should look at this. People making over 50. Look how many people are publishers are making over 250,000. Let's low. How much revenue will we bring in for ourselves if we start taxing them royalties on anything over 250? So it also said existing virtual tabletop agreements will not be affected by whatever shape the OGL takes, because they're not under the OGL. They have direct deals with Wizards of the Coast. So that will likely block out any of these programs that do scraping of the OGL, so you can get the data. I understand there's a Kickstarter, not a Kickstarter, a Patreon that's offered out there for 5e that does such, so you can avoid D&D Beyond. They're trying to lock this down. Quite simply, my opinion, I'm sure many of you would differ with this, and I'm sure there's many of you going, why does Tenkar even care? It's D&D, okay? It's going to, if it does well, it'll bring gamers into RPGs in general. Old school gaming will pick up members in their community. I'm guaranteeing you that. You might not. Some of the garage might be like, "Oh, these kids are too young. They don't know." They'll learn. But here's the thing: maybe there's some great new feature of 5e that's covered under the whatever license is going to be called. The argument, by the way, if you go to NWorld, is that you can use any version of the OGL with any official version of D&D, but if it isn't technically OGL, if they call it the Open Game System license or something like that, it's no longer the same license, right? But as it stands, as written, the understanding is, okay, well, I can use 1.0 as long as there's an SRD. If there's no SRD, then you don't even know it's open, right? And SRD, when's that going to come out? Not until after the game is published. And all this means that your voice is just important now and the next coming months as any time. It's more important now than after the game gets published. Once one D&D is out, once they've agreed on their OGL, the OGL lands, and we're going to see it in 2023, we're going to see it next year. Your voice, your input, your reaction is the reason why we got this in the first place, right? They didn't. Do you think they really wanted to show their hand? I don't think they were ready to. And we know things can change. They're telling you it can evolve. Your input, your feedback, your reactions online at NWorld, other communities, it's what can make a difference on this stuff. Don't think you don't have any influence. Don't think you have any voice. You do. You don't have to agree with me, but make yourself heard. Comment here, comment on all the other videos that are out there discussing this topic in one way or another, whether you agree or disagree. Comment. Go to NWorld. I know I'm sending you to NWorld, but when it comes to discussions like this, they are going to get read by people at Wizards of the Coast. That's the place to be. Got to give Morris credit for that. He has a community that is active, that is vocal, and has the ears, to some extent, of Wizards of the Coast. Use it. Use it. Folks, on that note, as always, we are still in the midst of the, yes, you guessed it, the endemic. So use your common sense. Be safe, be well. God bless. Roll those dice, roll them well. I will be back again tomorrow. Wednesday is a live stream at 8 p.m. Eastern. I believe we are going to have some members of the other live streams on this channel, quite possibly Ty Beard, gaming lawyer. He will be here to discuss. Oh my God. OGL 1.1. We'll get a legal mind behind it and get their reaction to it. And I'll see if they agree with me. Maybe Ty doesn't. Maybe Ty thinks I'm full of shit. He probably does in certain ways. But join us. That's 8 p.m. Wednesday for the live stream. I'll see you then, folks. God bless. Good night. Later.